sharing of knowledge. For that, after the introduction, I will be talking about pain abdomen and gallstone disease, which are very common. And idea is to have this knowledge, acquire it, to discuss it, because we need to spend some time always to acquire knowledge and then dissipate it. And this august gathering of friends and doctors, they are connected with the families and friends and other doctors. So when we discuss such subjects, we are more clear. And this is a two-way affair. Like if I will be presenting something, I will expect you to be interacting with me so that I also learn something. Nobody knows everything. So I'll start with my presentation. Thank you. This my presentation is my experiences of 35 years in the service of the ill and pain abdomen and gallstone disease. Next please. So welcome. This is our Diwan hospital. Next. The introduction, I must remember my father. He was the first MLA of Ludhiana, an advocate, a freedom fighter, and he, was a very devoted person to the society. Once a very learned Pandit ji came to him and asked him, "Diwan साहब आपने कभी गीता पढ़ी है?" तो he said, "हाँ, विनोबा भावे जी हमें जेल में पढ़ाया करते थे." जब उनको जेल हुई थी, तो उन्होंने कहा, "तो क्या पढ़ा आपने?" उन्होंने कहा, "ये ऐसे है कि हम अपनी ड्यूटी को विद नॉलेज करें, तो और विद डिवोशन करें." तो ड्यूटी होगी कर्म योग, नॉलेज होगी ज्ञान योग, और डिवोशन जो है वो भक्ति योग. So this is the basic thing of Gita. He says, I put into practice. I don't read it every day, but I put into practice. My mother, when I was a child, she suffered from cancer of breast, and she was operated upon and again operated upon, and we lost her. And she wanted me to be a doctor because she was the daughter of a very renowned doctor, Dr. Jeevan Maleri, who was trained and educated from England. Next, please. This, my teacher, Dr. Amarjit Singh, he was the professor of surgery, HOD, and he was the principal later. And Government Medical College Patiala, the best thing which I found in Government Medical College Patiala was that it was a big ocean of patients. Believe it that anything and any topic which we will study, and if we go to the wards, we will find those patients to just to make sure that what we have read in the books, we could actually see. And this was a very great experience, and teachers at that time were wonderful. They carried us in life. Next. This is my mentor, my spiritual mentor. He was a English Dr. S.N. Bhardwaj. He was MA in English and principal of Government Medical College, Hoshiarpur. And he came and stayed with us at Ludhiana at our home. And he had special love for me, and I had a special love for him. And he was always, reading books and meditating on God. And what he used to write on small slips of paper and give to me. Like on one of the slips he wrote, "If you do not laugh, you are half. So keep happy and laughing." Then he wrote that, I asked him what is the best prayer. He said, "You pray to God that, please make me thy instrument." So really I used to, it carried me in life like, okay, whatever the difficulties and achievements of life, what we want is to pray to God that, "Oh God, make me thy instrument. Every action of mine should be through you." And his, of course, personal mantra, which I asked him, "What are your mantra?" He said, "I chant Sat Chit Anand." That is sublimely blissful experience of the boundless pure consciousness, a glimpse of ultimate reality. So this had a very profound influence in my life. Wherever I went, even India or abroad, I will receive a letter from him every 1 or 2 weeks guiding me in life. Next please. Then I joined Christian Medical College and Hospital, and here is Dr. Kim. This is their ICU at that time. Now the things have changed and they have improved a lot. So the main thing which I learned at CMC was, and which I remember was, that the practice of medicine and surgery, there was as per book, and you couldn't cross the book. I mean, if you miss something, it will be caught. And that was a great thing. Proper record taking, proper work of the patient, proper investigations, proper treatment. So this helped me a lot in life, wherever I went. This discipline, which was the foundation, was working in Christian Medical College and Hospital. I did my 1-year internship there. After MBBS, I joined there. And then after MS, again I joined there and did my senior agency there. Next, please. Then I joined Safdarjung Hospital and University College of Medical Sciences, New Delhi. And there I worked in the Department of General Surgery and the Department of Cardiothoracic Surgery. And this was a free hospital where the food, medicine, everything was given free. So large number of patients were there. And there are some remarkable things was that lot of variety of patients. And at that time, it was terrorism time also, in Delhi also, and we will get a lot of patients of trauma. At that time in cardiothoracic surgery, we would deal with, like, this is a photograph of patient's knife going into the heart. We will open the chest and put few sutures there. And earlier, it was so difficult situation, like heart is injured. But there, once you are into the practice and into a system, it becomes a routine, a habit. And this is one patient which I want to show you, because in the cardiothoracic and vascular department, this was a Baba who had lost to smoking, to Burgess disease, all the limbs, and this also the fingers are gone. And even then he was smoking in the hospital bed, a BD which fell on his blanket, and it caught fire. So very, something you cannot forget. And something, which is such a glaring thing that smoking and other things in the society, they can be so harmful. And if your person is guilty to it. I'll just break this lecture for a minute here. Dr. Atul Mishra is here. And I will request him to please come for the chairing of the session. And I will request Dr. S.C. Garg to please escort him. And Dr. Kulwinder to please present him with a bouquet of flowers. Kerala Medical College and Hospital, Department of Surgery, and he is a renowned gastroenterologist surgeon. We welcome him. Thank you, Dr. C. Thank you, Dr. Kulwinder. Next, please. Then I, joined Central Hospital. Doctor, you have to chair the session, please. Central Hospital, Al Khoms, Libya. And the beauty of working at Central Hospital, Al Khoms, Libya was multidiscipline, international faculty. Like this is our morning meeting going on. And this is Dr. Ahmed Rohini. He was a FRCS surgeon from England. He was a Libyan. An excellent person. And then you find here white-skinned people. They are from Germany, Bulgaria, and you will have their Egyptians, Philippines. And this is also a Libyan gynecologist surgeon, again trained from England. Rest of the doctors were trained from England. And the thing was that when you are working abroad in a hospital where there is a specialty, in India, from every corner of India, there were doctors from Tamil Nadu, doctors from Madhya Pradesh, from Rajasthan, from Assam, and also from so many nationalities. That you learn languages and things from them. The main thing was that there was a competition. And to some extent, we were willingly or unwillingly pointing any fault of other nationalities. So whatever you had to speak, whatever one has to write, and whatever one has to do had to be correct. So working there, operating upon patients, looking after patients was a challenge, always to be correct. Like one of the patient of appendicitis, Mr. Stevie, not of appendicitis, presenting as appendicitis, came to me and in my emergency, and I did not operate on him. In the early morning round, just next time, the German doctors and the Egyptian doctors, they said that you have not operated on that. In the morning round, we used to have combined morning round. I said, no, I have not operated on that. This doesn't seem to me appendix. I want to observe him. Well, if he remains okay, we'll send him home. Otherwise, if need be, I will operate. So they said, okay, you know, this is Libya. Something happens, your head will be chopped off. I said, that's my head, not your head. So ultimately, that patient had many admissions and it was diagnosed as irritable bowel syndrome. Then he went to Italy. The rich people from Libya will go to Italy for treatment. And there he came back and showed to me. And what treatment they had given was just the extract of pudina, mint, pudinhara, which we also give for intestinal problem. So that was the thing that, and there was a very large number of gallbladder stone patients and trauma patients, because they will get nervous sometime and they will hit each other, and especially during Ramadan, their fasting season. And whenever it used to rain, we used to get a lot of accidents, car accidents, because they had some ego problem in them, which was Arabic ego, that they will not lower the speed of their car. So we will know that it's raining and their cars will skid down the roads and they will have accidents, they will come to us. They will come with multiple chests. The third day I went there, and there was a Ramadan was going on, their fasting season. And there was a patient with multiple stab wounds, Mustafa. He was related to Dr. Ahmed Rohini. And the German doctor said, no, we will not operate him here, take him to Tripoli, which is 150 kilometers. And that person would have died, because he was having a pneumothorax, he was having multiple stab wounds in the abdomen. So Dr. Rohini called me, because they know your biodata, that can you operate on him? I said, yes, arrange 5 units of blood. They said, okay, no problem, we'll arrange 50. I said, right, take him to OT. So there, again, Bulgarian anesthetist said, I will not give anesthesia because he has vomited blood in the OT. First, it should be clean. I rang up Dr. Ahmed Rohini, see Dr. Ahmed Rohini, he is not giving anesthesia, I am helpless. So he said, what to do? I said, ask an Indian anesthetist. So an Indian anesthetist came, he intubated, and I opened his chest, the gushing wound in his lungs I sutured, then the diaphragm was there, which was lacerated. I sutured the diaphragm in 2 layers, put the chest tube, went to his abdomen. His abdomen, the stomach was lacerated through and through, both the interior and the posterior wall. So I closed that, and when I came out with this patient having a Ryle's tube, IV drips, blood going on, chest tube, abdominal tubes, urinary catheter. So everybody thought that he's not going to survive, so they were crying, about 100 people were crying. But he became all right and remained my friend. So this was a very great experience where we had to operate all the serious patients, trauma patients, and under the stress that we had to be right. Next slide. Surgical practice at Dehradun and Yanning area. From there when I came, I had a lot of relatives at Dehradun, so I settled down there. First of all, did my freelancing practice. And in the freelancing practice, going to Harbatpur, going to Vikas Nagar, going to Roorkee, in the nights, doing cesarean sections. I had an anesthetist whom I will take with my surgical things and anesthetic equipment to various small clinics, makeshift operation theaters. And I remember having operated gallbladder, appendix, and cesarean section on the examination tables of some doctors in the villages at pitch night with brains and all. So this was, and with the grace of God, everybody became all right. There was never any complication I faced, and the patients faced. Well, then I started my hospital there. This hospital basically started there, and there I had a lucky stroke. My Dr. Amarjit Singh was fond of operating thyroid surgery, and I had learned thyroid surgeries from him, and nobody was operating thyroid surgeries in Dehradun. So in the sub-Himalayan region, a large number of thyroid surgeries, they started coming to me. And I started operating on that. And that was 2-3 thyroid surgeries of big goiter I was operating. That gave me good name and good money too. Next please. So Dehradun Medical College and Hospital, I joined from there as senior lecturer and consultant surgeon. And the best thing again I will say about that was, to teach the MBBS students and MS students. And this was a thing that you cannot teach unless you learn. So you have to go back to books, you have to go back to net to teach, and there are some surgeries which you will not operate in private practice, which have poor prognosis. The outcome is not certain. We are not sure the patient will survive or not. What will be the outcome, or patient prognosis is not clear. And difficult surgeries, there I could do, like I did lot of subtotal, near total sections of the colon for cancer of the colon in single stage. And I presented a paper on that and some other surgeries. So this was the basic thing that working in a teaching institution gives you learning for yourself, not only that you teach. Next please. There I went to All Institute of Medical Sciences, sponsored by Gyanand Medical College and Hospital, for an laparoscopic surgery center. And after receiving that Gyanand Hospital, Dr. Purana, Dr. Mohan Gupta, and that we started. Next please. After that, from Gyanand Hospital, we established Diwan Hospital, and we gradually, first of all, the inauguration of Diwan Hospital by Padam Shri Vijay Mohan Chopra ji, then Advanced Laparoscopic Surgery Center by Dr. L.S. Chawla, former VC of Baba Farid Medical University, and then again Endourology Center with me and Dr. Atul Mittal as in charge of the MCS Urology, as in charge of the center, by again inauguration by Padam Shri Vijay Chopra. Yes. So in Diwan Hospital, our basic surgery, which we have done a lot and are doing, is gallstone surgery. This is a common surgery, and with the grace of God, we have done more than 10,000 surgeries of gallbladder stones, not only laparoscopic. Like I told you, it was very common at Libya and other places. And we have the systems in place that this is like way back we did a 97-year-old patient for laparoscopic cholecystectomy, and this again around 92-year-old lady and a 13-year-old boy, which is common we take care. Our funda of giving good results is that we are selective and elective. We believe in proper investigation and choosing our patients which are suitable to be operated upon in our own conditions. Next please. So I went for the hernia and piles training. This is my hernia training program with Johnson & Johnson, Royal Institute of Medical Sciences. And then we held after that a CMEN workshop for proctorship. Dr. Mishra, who is HOD of Royal Institute of Medical Sciences, he came in the CMEN the workshop, and we operated certain cases here under their supervision in the outset, so that we can continue to do that. And we are continuing to do laparoscopic and other types of open tension-free hernia repairs. Next please. These are various presentations by me at various national fields. Like this is in Bangalore, I spoke on laparoscopic surgery. This is in Kashmir. These are all Institute of Medical Sciences. This is at Patiala. Next please. These are fellowships I received. This fellowship received from International College of Laparoscopic Surgeons. This is Mr. Rekha, Director of All Institute of Medical Sciences. This is Dr. Pradeep Chobe, renowned figure in laparoscopic surgery, is giving me fellowship in the Indian Association of Gastroenterology Surgeons. And this is fellowship of Association of Surgeons. Next please. Now various awards have been presented at various homes for the laparoscopic surgery world. Next please. Now this kidney stone and endourology center, Dr. Atul Mittal is about to present the next presentation. And but I do mostly open surgery whenever it is indicated or the patient wants it, or some ULS, but rest of the surgery is done by Dr. Atul Mittal. This is some striking stone, 1.3 kg stone in the urinary bladder of this patient, and this lady is sitting beside her. I asked, who is this? To his brother. He said, she was his wife. I said, why are you saying she was his wife? She, because he's still, with this stone, she had left him. She come just to ask how is he now? So later on he came to me and they were reunited, united once again. That was the happy note that after the removal of the stone, 1.3 kg from the urinary bladder, the wife and husband and wife united once again. This is another stone which has been removed from the kidney recently. This was also too big and patient wanted. Large number of endosurgical procedure, urologic procedure have been done by Dr. Atul Mittal. Like this is very common to have stag horns, bilateral stones, very big ones, and I don't know how does he do it with the magic, but clears it in one go. Next please. Thyroid surgery, this lady keeps meeting me about 11 years back, papillary carcinoma of thyroid. This again papillary carcinoma of thyroid. This I recently removed a very big tumor in his bone. This was luckily benign. So we continue to do a lot of thyroid surgery. Next please. Breast surgery is a painful thing, although I am passionately attached to it because my mother had suffered from breast cancer. But one thing that our hospital does not carry the word of cancer, so we don't get much patient, but whatever come, they come in late stages. Most recently I operated on this case just to have a toilet surgery because she was foul smelling and there were maggots in this. But she had widespread metastasis. This surgery, you see, this patient had been going to quacks. Why all of them have been going to quacks and babas who have been assuring us patients that they will be becoming all right? We have had so many CMEs and public education programs on cancer breast, and the CMOs also came, other people came. But still I find there is more scope for education of the masses, that they should not get to quacks that who show them that, okay, we'll put you on the Mars, we'll put you on the Venus, and there are palaces there, and you can live for 2000 years. And in the meanwhile, the disease goes on increasing and goes beyond any treatment. Next please. These tumors, they come to me when they become abdominal. I do operate on this tumor, but they all come big, whether they are abdominal or pelvic, and when they become abdominal, all of the abdomen is occupied, then only mostly I find them they coming to me. So we operate on them. As you can see, they are very big tumors. Next please. These are like I just now told you, we have a public education department in which we continue to hold CMEs now and there. Dr. Rinder Bhumota is here. He had organized a lot of our CMEs in Punjab Kisan Club and peripheral areas. And those CMEs are basically to guide the people about early diagnosis. They should go for early diagnosis, early treatment. What are the harms of addiction? They are not aware of what harms can come through excessive or abuse of alcohol, other opium products and other things. And once in one of the, I think Dr. Rinder, you may remember, one of the Babaji just stood up and he said, Dr. Diwan, why are you speaking against alcohol so much? This is daru, and daru is dava also. Don't we take dava? So why can't we take daru? I said, okay, but you don't take the whole chemist shop. You are consuming full bottle. Sometimes you can take a little bit. So like that, there are a lot of misconceptions. And on various topics of social interest and on various topics of medical interest, like typhoid, pain abdomen, we have been doing CMEs and we will continue to do that next week. We had in Diwan Hospital a charitable program because we believe that life is short and should be shared. Whatever we have with us should be shared with those who are not privileged not to have that. This is our official policy. Under that, we have had various surgical camps, like this surgical camp being inaugurated by Shri V.H. Chopra ji and various other people. This by Charanjit Singh Atwal. This was CMO of Ludhiana. So this by Dr. Avtar Singh Chawla. And these camping programs we are not doing that much now. Like we used to have 1 or 2 months long surgical camp in which we used to operate one patient free every day and other patients, 3-4 patients at cost. Like that we used to work out at around 1/3 of the cost what we are getting in the other nursing homes or hospitals. So that we are not doing on large scale, but we have now registered a society in the memory of my mother and father, and that is Sheila Diwan and Diwan Jagdish Chandra Memorial Charitable Society. And we have allocated 4 beds and a ward in our hospital for this purpose, in which the admission is free and all the things are provided to them accept medicines at half the price. So we want to continue to serve the society whatever we do. Next please. So this is the, I have been associated with our ancient literature which has come to us from various places, and like this I like the quotation from Gita about knowledge, that one has to work to have knowledge, that God is light of all lights, beyond confusion, God is knowledge itself, worth knowing, worth attaining through real wisdom and particularly seated in the hearts of all. So that is what we need to have, the wisdom and the knowledge, and then only we will realize God and we will realize the way of life. Next please. So this with this prayer to God to give us wisdom and knowledge, I start with my clinical CME, and I think I will do it very quickly. Maybe I am taking more time. Is it? So yeah. So that this pain abdomen, it becomes, who is there who has not suffered from pain abdomen? At times it comes, and when it comes, you must know that it is an alarm. I have done many CMEs in which I say कि भगवान का दिया हुआ है, ये alarm है आपको, given by God to let us know something is not right and requires attention. Next please. So if you divide the abdomen into 4 parts, so depending upon the parts in that, and also due to various other reasons, you can have pain abdomen. Like in the right, there is liver, so you can have inflammation of the liver, you can have abscess of the liver, even the increase of liver due to various cardiac diseases, other diseases in which the capsule is stretched can cause pain. Then there is gallbladder, there is duodenum, there is colon, there are others. Similarly below, there is appendix, there is cecum, large intestine, a part of large intestine, small intestine, and in ladies there are adnexa, that is ovaries and tubes. So any disease with that which will come later, and on the other side there is a sigmoid colon, a part of the large colon which can get many problems. And on this side we have stomach and left lobe of the liver, spleen. So depending upon the problems with that, like simple gastritis, inflammation of the stomach, कोई बंदा मतलब कि due to food or other things can have. And then in the center there is pancreas and other organs. Aorta is there. Next please. So now you can better visualize that this is the right side liver and the gallbladder, here it is the stomach, this is the pancreas. So small intestine, large intestine, depending upon various problems with these, we can have pain abdomen, and also we can have referred pain to the abdomen due to various problems which are not inside the abdomen, like in the lungs or in the hearts, even in the brain or in the testes. So we will come to that later. Next please. Now this is called referred pain. There are various theories. Why do a person get a referred pain? So these are theories are shared neurons or nerve fibers. That problem is somewhere else. Patient having a heart attack, or patient having a inflammation of one's testes, but having a pain in the abdomen. So this is due to either migration of the organs from one place to other, or due to sharing of the nerves. Next please. Now various important extra-abdominal causes of abdominal pain. When we think of abdominal pain, patient comes to us with the pain inside the abdomen. So one has to look for other causes. The success doesn't lie only in seeing straight that if he said I'm having pain abdomen, that something must be right with my abdomen. No, there is many times. Even the three months back, I found 3 patients in 1 month who came to me for gallbladder surgery, but one had MI, another had pneumonia, another had another problem. So these are systemic diabetic ketoacidosis. Now this diabetes being very common. I remember I saved so many children in Libya by just getting their sugar test level tested and ketoacidosis level. And they told me that earlier some people had operated upon them for appendicitis, German doctors, and they had died later. So I used to wake up everyone, and to some extent even laboratory people had filed a complaint against me that Dr. Diwan is ordering too many investigations at night. But it saved lives. Alcoholic ketoacidosis, uremia, sickle cell disease, porphyria, systemic lupus erythematosus, vasculitis, glaucoma even, and hyperthyroidism. And various type of toxins like methanol poisoning, heavy metal poisoning, scorpion bite, black widow spider bite, thoracic, myocardial infarction, unstable angina, pneumonia, pulmonary embolism, hernia, herniated thoracic disc. Now, we have seen, it's not that you are not seeing, these things are seen in practice, and we must keep in mind, then only we will save a person with pneumonia or myocardial infarction from treating or operating for a abdominal thing. Urinary testicular torsion, renal colic, infections like streptococcal pharyngitis, especially in children, they present with pain in abdomen. They have pharyngitis, and somebody is likely to create one. Abdominal or muscle spasm, muscle hematoma, herpes zoster. Next, please. Now, various dangerous mimics. Like patient has appendicitis, but it will look like gastroenteritis or pelvic lymphatic disease or urinary tract infection. Patient will have ectopic pregnancy which is ruptured and the blood is collecting inside. Patient's hemoglobin is falling, blood pressure is falling. But one will think of again pelvic lymphatic disease or UTI or simple corpus luteal rupture. That's not a big thing. You have to have pregnancy test, you have to have ultrasound. Perforated viscous. The duodenum or the stomach has perforated. But person may think of other things like acute cholecystitis and pancreatitis which do not require early surgery, whereas perforated viscous requires early surgery. Now, bowel obstruction. This may go for simple constipation, gastroenteritis, etc. Mesenteric ischemia of the bowel. Now, this is a problem which I have seen around 12 times and in various places. And most important problem is that sometimes they are not diagnosed, they say, when you can treat them and when they are alive. I remember a case in Dehanand hospital when I went to take rounds and he was being treated like for pancreatitis. And he had generalized guarding and tenderness of the. And ambulance liability is also raised to some extent. And I ordered a CT scan which has not been done. And pancreas is normal. Now pancreas is normal, person has something. Leukocytosis is there. So I opened him up. His, I think, about 10 feet was gangrenous due to mesenteric thrombosis. And this happened with Libya. That time we did not have diagnostic procedure. But you open and see. The policy in this case is when the patient is not improving, either investigate or open and see, not to wait and see. Infarcted or strangulated hernia. Now this also sometimes is overlooked. I have had patients when I have taken night rounds and one lady was there in Libya who had obstructed, obturated gangrenous hernia and she was being treated in the female ward for maybe an ovarian cyst pain due to ovarian cyst. And a lady to expose in Libya at night, it requires guts, with the staff and science, very important messages. The significant abdominal tenderness should never be attributed to gastroenteritis. Now, pain is what the patient says. Tenderness is when the clinician presses the abdomen and patient feels pain on the pressure. Next. Always perform genital examination when lower abdominal pain is present in males and females in young and old. So they say that abdominal examination is not completed unless you are examine the genitals. The boundaries of the abdomen extend beyond the abdomen because it comes into the diaphragm and the genitals and PR system, everything has to be seen. Next, please. Severe pain should be taken as an indicator of serious disease. Next. Pain awakening the patient from sleep should always be considered significant. We ask the patient, can you sleep or do you get disturbed? Pain almost always precedes vomiting in surgical cases. Converse true in most gastrointestinal NCA. This is very important. For diagnosing simple surgical thing is that pain and then vomiting. Whereas in gastroenteritis due to infections, the person will be vomiting and then feeling the cramp of pain. Whereas in this, patient will have pain and then the person will vomit. This is a very significant point and I found very useful. Next, please. Acute cholecystitis is the more common surgical emergency in the adult. Next. A lack of free air in the chest X-ray does not rule out perforation. This is true. So many times we took the X-ray and there was no air, but it was suspected. Then we put an ice tube and push the air with 50 cc syringe, push 5-6 times, then you find air there. Next. Now the common appendicitis is the commonest emergencies. German surgeon used to tell it the grand malady the abdominis. So next please. I won't discuss much about that. And you know the diagnosis and treatment. Next please. Now common pitfalls in acute appendicitis. Very young in children, the momentum is not developed. The signs are not clear. In the elderly, the muscles are lax. You don't find tenderness and bone tenderness. Pregnant women, the appendix is gone up due to push by the uterus. Then again, childbearing age, appendicitis, you attribute it to some bleeding by the corpus luteum or ovulation, something like that. Now, when in doubt, what I am doing is, which we were not doing earlier, was whenever in doubt, earlier we used to admit the patient or observe. Now we are putting them to CT scan. Next. So this is the rebound tenderness with the appendix, infection, inflammation going to the muscle wall. We press and release it. As we release it, it rebounds and patient has sudden jerk off. Next please. This is ultrasound. It is very rare to find appendicitis diagnosis in ultrasound. Usually we do not get it. It's mostly clinical diagnosis. But here you can find the appendix is thickened. Next please. This is the CT scan. When in doubt, this is the cecum, air fluid level in the cecum, and this is the appendix which is inflamed with very some pus or fluid around it. So this now has become a golden rule. I don't know, I will ask Dr. Isra and other, but in our private practice, now there was a time we say when in doubt the appendix is out. That thing is out now. We have to go for the diagnosis before we break. Next please. Now this bowel obstruction. Now and then we do come across cases in which bowels are obstructed, is rotated, convolvulus and gangrene due to various reasons of adhesions or tumors, and we do laparotomies and we have to do resection anastomosis, because otherwise this is a dead portion and this will leak and the bacteria will leak. The funda is that here when it is healthy, inside there is all infection. What we eat, even feces are there, stools are there, which are so fancy, foul smelling. Outside there is complete sterile environment in the peritoneum. So what is the vitality of the wall of the small or the large intestine? That keeps the infection inside the intestine and kills any bacteria which tries to cross the intestinal wall. In these cases, the vitality of our defense is gone. Bacteria, they cross this thing and go to the body, to the sterile area, flourish there, cause abscess, cause septicemia, cause toxemia, and will later on lead to multiple organ failures and death. Next please. So timely diagnosis, and I won't go into details. Next please. This is the X-ray in which you find the multiple air fluid levels. Next. Again, now this is small intestine. You see the stria, and this is the jejunum, upper small intestine, and this is the rectangulus tube of lower small intestine. So you can find the level of obstruction. Next please. And this is the cecum, which is a rare thing for cecum volvulus to take place. This is from one of my patients. The cecum has volvulus, and this is the enlargement of the large volvulus. And this is a sigmoid volvulus. This we find more common than cecal volvulus. Next please. And this is again to differentiate between the large bowel and the small intestine. Because large bowel is mostly carcinoma or volvulus, and small bowel has many other smaller problems. And these are the hospitations which are irregular. These are regular striae. Next please. This is air under the diaphragm due to leakage of fluid and air inside the abdomen. And this is the perforation that duodenum, typically seen as a punched out area. Next please. Now renal colic. Always we have to think about renal colic. Now we have good diagnostic facilities. Earlier we didn't have these diagnostic facilities, and sometimes we had a real time. We didn't have ultrasound, we didn't have CT scan and other scan. So what we were doing is taking a IVP. Many times I did a IVP just to find out whether it is a pain due to appendix or due to a ureter stone. And the renal colic from the groin to groin pain, typically moving from here in the flank, and stone can be somewhere. Next please. Next please. This is the mesenteric ischemia. You can see the vessel is grown strong. Recently we had a patient with celiac ischemia, and that patient was taking food and feeling pain and being treated for tuberculosis by a reputed institute. and luckily we sent for CT scan, and then we found the celiac artery is narrow. I referred him to Dr. Mishra, and he prayed upon him. The patient is well. Next, please. Now, common pitfalls in mesenteric ischemia. I think I'll skip this slide. Next, please. This is the ovarian torsion. Ovaries, they torse and they cause pain. Next, please. It's the testicular torsion. Now, this is important that the testes, when they torse, their nerves supply, they are earlier inside the abdomen, near the kidneys. Then they travel down as the baby grows. So they draw their nerve supply from near the legs at each end. So they have some problem, the pain is here. I have seen many physicians and surgeons missing testicular tumors and torsion and thinking of abdominal problem. Because this is early diagnosis is very important to them. If we do not rotate them back within 6 hours, they are likely to be dead. Next, please. This is aortic aneurysm. We do find in, especially we are likely to find more and more of this as the patients, more cholesterol problem and obesity problem is rising in India. This is on the ultrasound, and this is the leaking aortic aneurysm. I had one of the managers of my hospital, Mr. Steve Sajeva. He had this problem. He got operated from AIMS, and he had recurrent problem, and he died due to this thing. Next please. Now this is about vein abdomen. Now we'll quickly go through the gallbladder. Now gallbladder problem, gallstones, they 8 to 10% of adult population about 40 is affected by these. 90% of these stones are silent stone. And say in a year about 20 million patients are likely to have this surgery, and the weight of stones will come in tons and tons. Next. So this is about the anatomy of this. The bile helps the body to digest fats. It's made in the liver, stored in the gallbladder until the body needs it. And that's the problem. While it is stored, it is constantly being produced. So to store it, the body and the gallbladder concentrates it. And when it becomes hyper-concentrated, so that there is crystal form. And when the crystals join, they form the stone. And there are conditions in which the hyper-concentration and crystallization is more likely. For example, in pregnancy. And when the gallbladder is pressed, and there is progesterone hormone and similar such conditions. So we can have stones because of these things. Next please. Again the magnified view, and this view is presented to you to let you know that gallbladder is not simply gallbladder. It is related to small intestine and in large intestine over here, liver and pancreas. The stones in the gallbladder can cause pancreatic problems which can be life-threatening. Next. Now, I want to carry this message to the august gathering of doctors. They say we gallbladder operation karana khani tha to jao. Aaj kehte hain usse पंगा पै गया, ये operation में हो गया. Because it's not simple. Just like you say pain abdomen is not simple, gallbladder surgery is one of the most difficult surgeries. Because gallbladder can have so many problems which are not the creation of the surgeon or the doctor. Like you can see in this case, there is double gallbladder. The gallbladder is inside the liver, and the ducts having different problems. This is the normal, this is the gallbladder, this is the ducts. And here, this is the duct is swollen. This is called polyductal cyst. And there is a diverticula on the cyst. And there is intrahepatic diverticulum, one or more, or both extrahepatic and intrahepatic. And this is a hourglass gallbladder divided into 2 parts. Next please. This is a rare entity. I have seen only one case. That is torsion of gallbladder, and that also I saw in India, and we operated on them and saved the patient. If you do not operate on torsion of gallbladder in time, it is likely to perforate and cause problem, make the patient complicated. Next please. So various types of stones which are common is the cholesterol solitary. This is a pure cholesterol stone, and the mixed stone or the bilirubinate stones in the gallbladder. Next please. These complications of gallstones. So as I have already shown, the gallbladder is very close to the pancreas, colon and stomach. Next please. Biliary colic. This is the acute pain due to gallstone. The gallbladder contracts and is not able to empty itself. The stone gets stuck at the cystic duct. So patient feels pain. Next please. Acute cholecystitis. The swelling and inflammation of the gallbladder. Next please. If it is not treated, and sometimes in patients, due to various other reasons of immunity and other things, it can progress to empyema. That is that instead of inflammatory fluid, it can change into pus. That we call empyema, the gallbladder full of pus. And we find it so common here. Gangrene of the gallbladder. The inflammation causes thrombosis of the vessels, blood vessels, supplying blood to the gallbladder. And these gallbladder vessels, they coagulate. Blood no more goes to the gallbladder, and so the wall dies and it becomes gangrenous, and it can again cause septicemia, perforation gallbladder. Next. Obstructive jaundice. The stone in the gallbladder slips down into the CVD most of the time. It is rare to find the primary CVD stone, and there it obstructs the flow of the bile from the liver through the intestine. And so the bile, which is constantly being produced by the liver, that flows back, overflows back into the blood. And this causes jaundice, yellow coloration of the eyes, of the skin, and the bile, since it doesn't go into the intestine, the stools are no more yellow, they will be white. Next. Ascending cholangitis. Now, this is a life-threatening condition. Due to the narrowing stricture of the ducts of the bile, where the bile is traveling, or stone, or carcinoma, any condition, the bile stays, and just like the pus forms inside the gallbladder, pus forms inside the gallbladder ducts, biliary ducts, and this formation of pus, that very quickly causes liver failure, septicemia, toxemia, and patient's life is threatened unless you do it. Doctor, gastroenterologist, Dr. Singla will tell you that they have two emergency drainage of that. Otherwise, the patient will die. Next. Pancreatitis. This is again a life-threatening condition. Sometimes due to passing stone. While the stone, like we know that the stone has to pass. This is the bile duct, there is a pancreatic duct. Sometimes they have a normal, common opening most of the time. When the stone passes, it dilates the opening from where the bile comes inside. And through that, the secretions in the duodenum, which are alkaline, they go inside the pancreas ducts, damage the ducts. And so the pancreatic secretions, which are very, very high in acid content, they auto start digesting the pancreas, and it becomes inflamed, and it causes many, many problems, which is not the topic of my discussion today, but this is life-threatening. Next please. Gallstone ileus, stone through the gallbladder, like this is close to the colon, to the duodenum or small intestine. It goes to that big stone, causes obstruction of the intestine, and we have to wait for that patient. Next please. So I will not discuss, I will discuss into the details of these complications. Time is not permitting. Next please. These are the photographs of acute cholecystitis and a gangrene. You can see the green coloration here of the gallbladder removed in time, otherwise it would have perforated. Next please. This is the chronic cholecystitis. With the time, more in acute cholecystitis, we have more of inflammatory cells. They are causing the swelling of the gallbladder and the fluid. Whereas in chronic inflammation, more of fibers come into place, and the wall becomes thickened, not due to edema, but to the laying down of fibrous tissue. Next. And this is again cases of chronic cholecystitis. Next please. Again, you can see very, very thick gallbladder. Now this thickness has a clinical significance. If we come to know that the gallbladder wall is thick more than 3 millimeters, then we have to warn the patient that you may require conversion to open choly more than what is normal. Normally is about 1%, which we do convert from laparoscopic cholecystectomy to open cholecystectomy. But if we find that the gallbladder wall is thickened, then it is also that some fibrous tissue will be laid down outside. There will be adhesions with the biliary ducts, with the small intestine, with the colon, and other adjoining areas. So we have to be prepared that we may not be able to separate that. Because what is the main thing in that? We have to use force to separate. And when a surgeon feels that I am using the force here to separate the fibers, and that force seems to be enough to damage an intestine. So when that feeling comes, then the hand stops. Okay, I cannot operate because this force can damage the intestine or the common bile duct. So then we have to change. Next please. This is just a beauty. Porcelain material you keep in the home, and sometimes we have, due to chronic inflammation, porcelain type of very beautiful gallbladders. Next please. Now this is a figure showing a stone coming into the various levels of biliary duct, intrahepatic and extrahepatic, causing obstruction and jaundice. Next please. Yeah, this is cholelithiasis. Next. Hepatolithiasis inside the liver. Next. Cholelithiasis inside the biliary ducts. Next. And this is Dr. Dinesh Singhla's job. They put endoscope, dilate the ampullary area, and in a basket they introduce and pull the stone out. Whenever we find the stone, it is our first endeavor that before we take up the patient for surgery, we try the stone be removed from the biliary system by the gastroenterologist. Next please. As you are seeing, they have taken out the stone inside the duodenum. Next please. Now this is gallstone ileus. This is statistical data of various places at which they have found in 80% where the stone has caused obstruction. Next please. And this is a stone, and this is the resected portion of the intestine where the stone was stuck. And end-to-end anastomosis has been done, and patient becomes alright. Next please. Now these, not only that we have stones and other problem in gallbladder biliary system, we have carcinoma problem like carcinoma ampulla obiter, which we come to know earlier. A Whipple surgery can be done and patient may lead a normal life. Next please. The carcinoma or papilloma of the gallbladder itself is carcinogenic and predisposes to carcinoma, and carcinoma of gallbladder is a very dreaded disease. Especially gallbladder being closely applied to the liver. The secondaries quickly reach the liver, and the stage quickly becomes from first to the last stage, and the prognosis is poor. The survival more than 3 years is rare. Next please. Next. This is gallstone pancreatitis. CT scan, CECT, contrast enhanced CT scan, is the real thing. You cannot really diagnose it on the biochemical level, on the ultrasound level. And here you can see the pancreas, which is inflamed, swollen, and there is peripancreatic collection. 35% of the acute pancreatitis are due to gallstones, and the rest mostly due to alcoholic and other causes. Pathophysiology, the reflex of bile, which I already talked. Once pancreatitis is resolving, ERCP for stone extraction and sphincterotomy if it is needed. And the dictum is, which should be followed, that before the patient is discharged, the cholecystectomy should be done. Next please. And cholangitis, which I have already talked about, pus in the biliary ducts, which is a serious life-threatening treatment, requires a quick treatment. Next please. Now the imaging of the gallstones, only about 10% of the gallstones you will find on the plain X-ray. Like here you are finding on plain X-ray, and this is the calcification, the porcelain gallbladder in the gallbladder wall. Next please. This oral cholecystogram, this was the only diagnostic way available to us when we were being trained in Patiala, and even in CMC at that time there were no ultrasound. And we were doing this to know, we were not finding the stones inside the gallbladder, which we have no way to see them, because on the plain X-ray we had only 10% will be seen, and then if they are like radiolucent, we will put the patient to oral cholecystography, and if the gallbladder does not contract, like it has contracted to 1/3, then we will think, okay, the pain is due to gallbladder and gallbladder stone, and we will move it by open cholecystectomy. Now this is almost abundant. I don't know, Dr. Mishra will put this slide here, whether it has some value now. Next please. Ultrasound is the mainstay now, and it's a very simple, cost-effective, and quick procedure. And you can see here the thickened gallbladder. You can see the sludge, sand-like thing, and a stone, multiple stones. And here this is the normal gallbladder, which is very thin structure. Next please. Again the ultrasound, stones and one stroke sand in the Hartmann pouch, and a very thick gallbladder. Next please. Now this is the HIDA scan, hepatobiliary immunodiastatic acid nuclear imaging procedure. Now in
some diagnostic ways, that we want to know that this is acute cholecystitis, whether calcular or without stones. And we have a diagnostic dilemma. This investigation comes very handy. Like here you are seeing, if the liver is not seen, that means the liver is hepatocellular disease. The cells of the liver are diseased. They are not, concentrating this diet. And if the intestines are not seen, there is an obstruction and the bile is not going inside. And if the gallbladder is not seen, that means there is acute cholecystitis. Very handy investigation if needed in special cases. Next please. Now intrahepatic angiogram, whether in open or during the surgery, if we have any doubt, we can put a catheter into the cystic duct or into the common bile duct or common hepatic duct and look for stones. Like here you can see there are stones and they require extraction. And in case this is possible, then or afterward we come to know there are stones and we do extract. So this investigation is used now and then for detecting unsuspected stones during the surgery. Or later on to know the residual stone is that due to is in place. Next please. Percutaneous transhepatic angiogram. Now this investigation again in special cases when we cannot approach the common bile duct or the biliary system from below, and sometimes when there is ascending cholangitis, you want to drain it. In our times, sometimes due to carcinoma, when the person used to have very severe jaundice and a lot of itching, this was a procedure which was done routinely, putting a drainage duct through the liver, percutaneous transhepatic, just to relieve the patient of jaundice and itching. Now we do have special indication for this. Next please. This MRCP, again a very handy investigation when in doubt of CBD stones. This comes very handy, like you can see this CBD stone over here. Next please. ERCP, of course it has diagnostic and therapeutic both values, which we have already discussed. Next please. Now associated problem and disease. So you see a patient comes to us whether with pain abdomen or gallstone, any other thing. And to a surgeon, to a doctor, which I, to my mind and my practice and experience, I find most important is do not treat a disease, treat a patient. So when the patient comes to it, before we take him to operation theatre, admit him, so we must look for other things, associated diseases like severe anemia, severe infection, bleeding disorder, kidney failures, diabetic mellitus, jaundice, hepatitis, AIDS, gallstone, pancreatitis, typhoid, pregnancy. Now if I go come by come, patients who come, I have every other patient will find some or the other disease. Some patient will find some serious infections, anemias commonly. We find now that dengue season is going on. Thrombocytopenia will find. Diabetes mellitus patient will not know. Patient will know, will not be taking medicine. Will be taking some medicine from a square or from a baba. And you will find that diabetes is 500, 700, very common. Jaundice patient will not know if it is subclinical or slightly clinical. Hepatitis C and B are so common. AIDS patient, even if they know they are suffering from AIDS, many times they will not tell you. We are sharing this in our doctor home and general home. Gallstone pancreatitis, this is our routine, that any patient who comes as an acute patient with pain, with gallstones, we must do at least biochemical, if not CT scan, serum amylase lipids. And in case they are raised, we go for further investigation, because otherwise we will do a laparoscopic cholecystectomy in a pancreatitis patient, and later on patient will blame us and become serious about pancreatitis, because it has further complication. Pregnancy, patient may be pregnant, the lady in a age where they can be pregnant, any treatment before we give them medicine the first trimester, the baby can be harmed. So we have to be careful. Hypertension, I think about 50% of the patient you will find hypertensive, which they will not know, and the complications of hypertension. Ischemic heart disease, fresh time I already told you, left ventricular failure, variable heart disease, pulmonary tuberculosis. Again, you will find unsuspected in many patients. Asthma, so common. I have found in 2 patients who come to me for hernia and one for other surgery, chest X-ray is a routine, a big mediastinal mass. And we tell him, please go first get this treated. UTI, CBD campus. Next please. Next. Now cholecystectomy, when we should do cholecystectomy? Like we know that 90% of the patients, they have silent gallstone. So asymptomatic patients who have no symptoms, they do not require cholecystectomy. Next please. What are the indications? Next. Single complication. Single complication of any type will make a person eligible for undergoing the surgery. Because the next complication may be life-threatening, which we have already discussed. Next please. So if the person is waiting for laparoscopic cholecystectomy due to some reason, next please, he should be on low-fat diet, and many people go for the oral dissolution therapy. I have never found it succeeding. The literature does not support it. It does not help. The stones, if one symptomatic, must be put to surgery. Next please. Now indications for prophylactic. Now we have said that only symptomatic should be treated. Now this is opposite to that. What are the patients who do not have any symptoms, no pain, but still they should be put to surgery? Now they are pediatric gallstones, patient with congenital hemolytic anemias, again they will be pediatrics, gallstone more than 2.5 centimeters. This predisposes to carcinoma of the gallbladder. Now porcelain gallbladder, again same thing. Patient is undergoing bariatric surgery. Patient having incidental gallstone during intra-abdominal surgery is okay, take it out in the same setting. In case the patient is going for transplantation, because they have to go on immunosuppressive therapy and can have complications. Next please. Now what are the advantages of laparoscopic cholecystectomy? It has low mortality, shorter hospital stay, quick recovery, and decreased overall cost than open cholecystectomy. And what are the contraindications? These are the gallbladder or bile tumors, portal hypertension, and sometimes you do operate on patients in which you do not have the indication of portal hypertension. I have had 2 patients in which there was significant bleeding in portal hypertension after the surgery, few hours after the surgery, and we had to transfuse blood to the patient. Biliary fistula, Merges syndrome, pregnancy in the final trimester, cardiopulmonary or coagulation disorders. Next please. Now these are the operating room setup. Next please. These are the various entries through which we enter our instruments in the abdomen. Next please. And these are the inside pictures of laparoscopic surgery. Next please. Again the inside pictures of dissection of the cystic duct. This gallbladder is attached to a cystic duct with the biliary system. And this is cystic duct, the main 2 things which we have to delineate and then deal with. Next please. And this we are dealing with is putting clips on these and cutting these and cut these. Next please. And as you are seeing that this has been cut and now the artery will be cut. Next please. And we are removing the gallbladder from the fossa of the liver where it is lying down on the liver. Next please. Now we have to be careful in the avoiding the structures which can be damaged to the surgery like duodenum and colon, common bile duct, common hepatic duct, liver, and this is the nightmare for a surgeon to damage something else, which can happen with anyone. And I will thank God that luckily so far in our hospital with me, no major injury of any of the organs during laparoscopic cholecystectomy has taken place. Next please. Now contraindication to laparoscopy which we have already discussed. Next please. The complications of laparoscopic cholecystectomy are, like I told you, I had hemorrhage in 2 patients with portal hypertension, bile duct injuries. They have an incidence, they can happen sometimes due to reasons which are beyond the control of the surgeon. Retained stones, pancreatitis, wound infection, these are the common surgical complications which can happen in any surgery. And also special surgery, we have to insufflate carbon dioxide inside the abdomen. Sometimes the carbon dioxide can enter the venous system and can embolize. Although it is rare to embolize because carbon dioxide is very soluble in the blood. And some vasovagal reflex, especially if we fill up the abdomen quickly. Again, breathing is again, if we fill up the abdomen quickly, we have to be slow in filling up the abdomen. Hypercarbic acidosis, sometimes the patient can have high concentration of carbon dioxide into blood. Carbon dioxide constantly leaking inside the blood circulation, and the patient will have go into acidosis. Acidosis predispose him to cardiac arrest, and you will have a big problem. So we have to be careful with monitoring. We have to measure the oxygen and carbon dioxide level. Trocar related, one trocar has to be put blindly. It can go through the vessels and cause bleeding, or due to some unexpected adherence of the things, it may cause some injury to the intestinal or other abdominal organs. Next please. So this is my presentation, and this is what I have learned my prayer from Vedas, and behave with others as you would with yourself. Look upon all beings as your friends, for in all of them resides one universal soul. And the divine qualities of love, forgiveness, compassion and service will keep you happy throughout your life. Next please. I dedicate this lecture to my mother. And next, thank you very much.
Right in the beginning, I want to take this opportunity to congratulate Dr. Dewan, Mrs. Dewan and Ishta for celebrating their simple jubilee of Dewan. It was a very nice presentation that long, although I must say, but it covered everything. Many of you may not know that we are contemporaries. We did our internship together in CMC. We had a common friend, Dr. Vijesh Kalna, and we know each other for more than 25 years now. It's wonderful, and you are doing a very good job, and the passion and the enthusiasm which I see in you takes me back to my student days. You still love to teach others, the way you were explaining everything as if I'm going to leave off ophthalmology and do cholecystectomies. It was wonderful. I could remember many things, and it was just wonderful. In that, I just want to say that I wish you and all your staff, your family, the very best, and may God bless you to continue the service of the suffering humanity. Thank you.